Okay, lesson 19 from 5-Minute Theory deals with slurred notes. Now, on a keyboard, we slur notes. You'll see slurs. Usually it relates to how we are rolling on a keyboard. So if I'm going from note to note, I'm trying to connect those notes. But a lot of times it's also kind of a phrase marking. So without getting too technical, I'm going to teach you the way that I teach a wind player what a slurred note is all about. Anytime you have a slurred note, it is a curved line that connects notes of different pitches. Remember that the same pitch connected with a curved line is called a tie. A slur is when you connect notes of different pitches. We almost forgot to write our name in at the top, or I almost forgot. So whenever you're playing on a wind instrument, you're going to tongue, you're going to start the note with the tongue, ta, on the first note, and then a slur, you just keep playing with your air, ta, almost like a tongue notes, but you're going to move your fingers so that you're playing different notes on whatever instrument you're on. So we have a note here that's the beginning of a slur. So I'm going to tongue this note. This is under the slur, and this is part of the slur. So if I was on a wind instrument, I would say ta. Okay, ah would just mean that I'm pushing my arrow through the instrument and then changing notes on the fingerings. Okay, so the last note is not under the slur, so I would tongue that note. Now, even though you're not a wind player, and even though you don't tongue notes, hopefully, on a marimba or a set of bells, you have to kind of learn how this works so that when we transfer it to how we phrase or how we roll, you understand which is the start of a note and which are slurred notes, okay? On this note right here, I am going to tongue the first one and slur the second one. So since this is not connected to that, I tongue this next one and slur the next one. That kind of makes sense? So this one is by itself, tongue. This one has a note starting and slur through this one and slur to the next one. Here I tongue the first one. I tongue this one since there's no slur going into it, right? So I tongue that one, I slur the next one, and I tongue the last one. Even though you're not a wind player, just buckle up and just kind of get used to it because it will help you in the long run. Now, what I'm going to do is name the notes, okay? So I got my key signature, and I always like to write my key signature notes just to remind myself. 3 flats, B, E, and A, okay? And then I'm going to name the notes. So E, flat, D, C, B. B is in your key signature, okay? A, key signature. G, F, E, key signature. G, A. Now that's a key signature A flat, but now I got my natural here. This note will be a B. It's a key signature flat. This is an A. It's a key signature A flat, but I have that natural sign that's going to carry through. Here's a B flat. Here's an A, key signature note. F, G, A, B. That's a high B. We don't see a whole lot of those, but we will. And then our final note is E, key signature note, E flat. As a wind player, if I went through this line and playing it with whatever fingerings I was using, I would think ta, 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 ta. I would sing it like that because ta is the first note that you tongue, ah is the slur. That's just how it works. So we're going to do the same thing on number 2. First note of a slur is tongue. The note that it's connected to, if it's a different note, it's not a tie, it's a slur. So tongue that note, slur that note, tongue that note, Now I've got 3 notes, so the second 2 are slurred. That note's by itself. This note is tongue. Oh, now I got 4 notes that are slurred, or 4 notes that are together under that slur marking. Tongue. Here's a note by itself. Tongue, slur, slur. All right. Even though you don't tongue and slur, you do have to know what slurs are all about. Okay? Because whenever we're playing rolls on the keyboard, ta, ta, we'll separate the roll and we'll restart the roll. But that's a whole thing to do with mallets that somebody has to teach you, I guess. Not in 5-minute theory, but if you're working out the fresh approach to mallet percussion, you'll learn that. All right? All right. So let's name the notes here. Key signature, only 1 flat, so it's B flat. Any other notes are natural unless they are accidentals. All right, so F, A, not A flat, C, E, F, A, C, E. Just looks hard because I got all these slur markings. E, we have that ledger line. C, below the ledger line. B, here's my first flat from the key signature. And there's my B, but natural this time. Remember, bar line cancels that natural. So I'm back to my key signature. All right, now we're going up above here. We go F, G, F, G, A, B. Okay, it's in my key signature, so don't forget your flat sign. And then right below B is A. First ledger line is A. And then I have an A, but this time it's flat. G is above, F, and then E is flat. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Once you learn the tongues and slurs, and then naming notes with a key signature is kind of what you do. So turn over to the second half. We're going to reinforce our quarter notes and eighth notes. So in the second half of lesson 19, not only are we working on our rhythms, clapping and counting with eighth notes, but we're learning about a new device called a pickup note. Pickup notes are notes of a song that begin before the first full measure. All right, sometimes we have a song that has just a single word that is not an entire measure, so we don't have to think of a whole measure. We just think of that word as being a pickup into the first full measure. So the easiest thing to think of is almost like music math. If I have one quarter note here, how many counts is that? Okay, a quarter note would be one count. Now, if it's sitting by itself, that means it's the last count of the measure, which would be beat 4, right? So 1, 2, 3 is not shown here, but you start with a pickup note on beat 4. So in this first line here, what I'm doing is I'm figuring out this is a quarter note, it's only one count. So I got to figure out what my time signature is, otherwise I don't know what count to start on. So let's go to our first full measure. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So that, and then I got a bar line, so that means I'm in 4/4 time. So what's the last number in the measure? Count 4. So this will start with a pickup on beat 4. So I'll think of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. So I'm always thinking of whatever the last count is. If it's quarter note, you have that as your pickup. All right, let's keep going with writing in the counting here. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. I have a bar line. It's already for me. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Now, this one is minus a beat, 4. If I had a repeat sign, that 4 would be over here. Okay, so the pickup is borrowed from the last measure. Sometimes you'll see that notated at the end of a song, like the last measure will only have a certain number of counts, not a whole measure. Usually it's when you have a repeat sign that the last measure doesn't have a full measure of counts to it. So if I'm counting and clapping that line out loud, I'm going to go slowly here. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. I'm going to count that very first pickup note on count 4. So I don't play 1, 2, because it's not a whole note. All right, so let's count and clap that line together. 1 and 2 and go. 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. There is no 4. I would do a pickup, but that actually isn't a repeat. I just drew that in. Okay, so don't actually repeat that. So number 2. Let's skip the pickups for a second because we're not sure what count they start on. Let's do our first full measure. 1, 2, and 3, bar line. So what does that tell me? It tells me my top number in the time signature is count 3. Now, 2 eighth notes together equals 1 beat. So what's the last count in this measure? 3 and. So my pickups will be 3 and 1, 2 and 3. That's how those pickup notes, when you have more than one note, it could be 2 eighth notes. Half note, 1, 2, 3, bar line. 1, 2, 3, bar line. 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now I do have a repeat sign. So where is my count 3? I'm missing a count 3. It's in the pickup. So when I'm counting this line out loud, when I get to my last measure, I have to repeat back to the beginning. All right, so let's do that very slowly. Clapping and counting. I'm going to say 1, 2. You play your pickup notes on count 3. Here we go. Ready, and 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2 and 3. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 3, 1. Pickups. 3 and 1, 2 and 3. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 3, 1. And then I end, okay? But you have to, whenever you see a repeat sign, you have to know where you're going back to. Now, there was no other repeat sign, so I knew I was going back to the beginning. But you also have to use the note values to recognize that you have to read the repeat sign, or read the pickup notes. All right, let's keep going. Number 3. Again, we're going to assume that these are 4 pickup notes. The eighth notes are pickup notes. So let's do our first full measure here. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's my bar line. So this is going to be a 4. All right, so let's figure out our pickups. We have how many counts in the measure of pickups? So here's 1 count, here's 2 counts. So the last 2 counts of 4, 4 is 3 and 4 and. All right, dotted half note, 1, 2, 3. That means this is on 4 and. 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2. And then it's incomplete because if that was a repeat, I would go back to my pickup notes. All right, so last thing we do on this lesson is count and clap this line. So I'm going to say 1, 2. You're going to come in on 3 and 4 and. Here we go. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. 3 and 4 and 1. 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 1. No repeat, so you don't have to worry about the pickup notes. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this lesson as far as learning how to count and clap all of these rhythms with quarter notes and eighth notes and half notes, dotted half notes in different time signatures, but also applying that pickup note that you just learned about. So If it takes a minute, it takes a minute. Stop the video, work on each line, work on each measure separately. Make sure that you can do everything correctly before you go on to the next lesson.